Welcome everyone to this vlog, and I'm excited to have Bethany here. Hey Bethany.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
You're welcome. And I repurposed this on my podcast, so I have the video, but I'm also going to go ahead and do this introduction for our time tonight. Welcome to Author Audience, where I'm on a mission to help you reach more people with your message. It's time to let your light shine. Today, I'm rolling out the red carpet and inviting you to join me in this expert interview series with Bethany Jett. Welcome, Bethany.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
And my name is Shelly Hitz, and I'm the owner of Author Audience Academy, but I'm a true believer that success leaves clues. I don't know if you guys have heard that saying before, but I love that. Success leaves clues. And that's why I love to introduce you to authors and experts that have had amazing success and now are willing to come here and share their tips and strategies with you. So today, that's why I'm hosting Bethany Jett. And I'm just going to share just a little bit about Bethany, and then we're going to get right into the content. Bethany Jett's life changed dramatically when she attended her first writers' conference. Now, when was that, Bethany?
That was in 2012.
Awesome. Not only did she publish the Cinderella Rule, her book, she signed with the McGregor Literary Agency, where she is also a collaborative ghostwriter. She speaks nationally at churches and conferences, and her work has been published in multiple publications, including Chicken Soup for the Soul and ChristianityToday.com. She's a special projects manager with Splickety Publishing Group. That's kind of a fun word to say. And an entrepreneur at heart, Bethany founded the Serious Writer Academy and created the My Moments Planner. She's a military spouse and homeschool mama who loves cute shoes and all things girly. So excited to have you, Bethany. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, it's an honor to be here.
Yeah. And I have, we're going to talk about this in a minute, the Serious Writer's Companion Guide. And so that's something we'll talk about in a few minutes. Very cool. But for this week's Center Stage Spotlight training, I'm going to have Bethany share some specific success strategies about both like writing book proposals and then getting organized as an author. So I'm really excited for all that we can learn in this, time together. So Bethany, just tell us a little bit about how you landed your first book contract. I just find this so fascinating.
Well, I just have to say it's almost just a Cinderella story almost.
And that was your book, right?
Yeah, the book is called The Cinderella Rule. So it goes hand in hand with the story that I won a scholarship to a conference through the help of some people who had gone to the conference before. They told me, get an essay in, sign up for the scholarship, and they awarded it to me, and I had a 3-month-old blog. It was very new. I just transformed some of the blog posts into chapters and created a proposal, looking online for anything I could find about how to write a proposal. Printed off business cards the night before on my printer with the little, detachable. I didn't do business cards. I was so prepared and yet unprepared at the same time. Just one of those like happy to be there moments, wide-eyed, taking everything in. And at conferences, you get to pitch agents and editors and magazine editors and publishing houses. And several people loved it. I had interest from 2 agents, and I had interest from 2 publishers, and then a 3rd publisher who said, your platform's not ready. And I said, fine, I'm just so excited, and signed contract with my agent the week after the conference. Usually that's what happens. You meet, you exchange information, and then you connect after. And we started working on the proposal and beefing it up and using the connections that we made at the conference. And the publisher that said no was actually the one that bought the book. And that happened.
Oh, wow.
3 months later, we had the contract done and signed. So it was it doesn't happen often, from what I understand, but it was amazing and it was life-changing.
Yeah, and that's awesome because you you went through the process. I mean, you didn't even really know exactly what you were doing or what to expect, but you've obviously learned a lot along the way, and it's such a great story. I love that. Now, my expertise is not specifically in getting book contracts with publishers and all of that, but I get a lot of people that ask me about it, that want to go that direction. And so that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on here, is to share some tips and some of your advice for people that want to get traditionally published. What are some tips that you normally share?
You need to have an amazing proposal and make sure it's edited and clean. And you have to have good writing. I think that we assume that's just a given, but you want your writing to be good. And I think if your writing is at a certain level, it's almost like they can look past, the little errors you make in your proposal, or some of the things that maybe you didn't know that you needed in there as a new author. So make sure your writing is good. You want your proposal to be great. And I recommend going to a writer's conference if you want to get traditionally published. A lot of agents and publishers are looking for people who are serious enough to invest in their writing business. And you can go for just 1 or 2 days, and it gets you out of the slush pile through the email. I mean, they get bombarded with emails all the time.
Yeah.
When you go, you actually get their information. They tell you to usually they'll say, put the name of the conference or where we met, or they'll tell you some special word to put in the subject line. And then your email sort of floats to the top of their list when they get back. And they get to see you and they hear your passion and your voice for what you're writing, and it's worth every penny for the connections that you make.
Yeah, and that's a really, really good tip right there. And that's true, I think, for just about any kind of business is, find the type of conference that has the people and the connections there that would be helpful for you. Because that's how really my business took off this last year, was through going to live events. But the same is what you're saying. The same is true for getting a book contract. Go to a live event and make those connections, those relationships. And what kind of things should authors be thinking about when they're talking? Because sometimes you just get nervous, or you have that fear of failure or that fear of rejection or things like that, and it's probably to be expected that you'll have some rejection. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Just know that if you're going to a live event and pitching person to person, the editor or the agent, whoever it is, they want you to succeed. They're hoping they're going to meet their next client at the conference. And so, you're nervous, but they're excited for you. They want to hear your story, and they want to see great writing, and they want to see your proposal. So making sure that you do your homework, not only on what you're showing them, but then also on the people you choose. Because I hear all the time at these conferences, the agents and editors will say, make sure you look at what I'm sponsoring or what we're looking for. Don't come to me with a thriller mystery if I'm not taking those, because you just wasted your time where you could have been meeting somebody else, but then they have to tell you no, because they're not accepting that. And so just making sure that you specifically know why you want to meet the people you want to meet is a good tip, I think.
Yeah, and that's a really, really easy thing to do most of the time, is just to do a little bit of research and then know exactly the types of people that are accepting your genre or your type of writing. Now, you said, a book proposal is part of the meat of what really helps you get these contracts. What kind of tips or advice do you have on the actual writing of a book proposal? And I know for me, that sounds overwhelming. And I just think blank page, where do I start? How do I do this? So I don't know, just share with us some tips you think that authors would find helpful.
Well, there are certain sections of your proposal that you need to make sure in there. You want to have your overview. I like to have it at the top. It's what I teach my clients with my template that I use. One of the things I do for my literary agency now is I am blessed to be able to write proposals for other people. So celebrities or people with big stories who publishers want their story to get published. I'm helping them with their proposals. And so the overview,
awesome.
It's so fun. It's just crazy
how
connections you make and the things you get to do.
It's like the circle is, keeps going, and from your first proposal, now you're helping others.
Oh, it's crazy. It's so crazy. And but that overview needs to be killer. It is the first thing that they see, and you need to have a hook And whatever is going to set your book apart in the beginning, have that. There's so many sections, but you want to make sure that you explain your target audience, have it as narrow as possible in that section. They want to know, they're looking for, where does this go in the bookstore? What category are they going to put it on Amazon? They want to know who your reader is. They want to know that you know who your reader is.
Yeah.
And then Chip McGregor has a great book out on proposals right now on Amazon. It's great. Michael Hyatt has books out on proposals. Underneath the target section, though, I really give like the demographic of who my reader is. Like for my book, it was a college student aged 18 to 24, who was single. Like it was that specific, even though I had readers outside of that. And then you have affinity groups underneath that. Anyone else who is going to be interested in your book that's not necessarily your target reader, you want that. The big thing is going to be your chapter breakdowns. And even if you're not going to write a proposal to take in, even if you're just writing a book that you're going to self-publish, I encourage my clients to start with the chapter breakdowns if they're writing nonfiction, because it helps you outline where the book is going to go. And
yes,
you have to have that for the proposal. Your book doesn't have to be done for nonfiction when you go in to pitch, but you have to have the breakdown. They need to know that you know where it's going. And there's lots of things in between too, but those are some big ones.
Yeah. So I would love, I don't know, I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but do you have an example of a pitch for one of your books, or, that intro that you said, that hook, or something just to kind of help us wrap our mind around what something like that would look like?
I'm trying to think about, I think back to my first proposal that I pitched, and I'm horrified at it now. But my kissing chapter had a great hook in it. And so that's one of the first things that they looked at when I handed it to them. They skimmed, but then they looked at my chapter. And the first part was, I've kissed 5 guys in my life, was my first sentence. And let's hear about that. It was like a little juicy tidbit, and it was enough then to pull them in. And so whatever your book is about, you want to sort of pop them in the beginning, and that could even be in the overview. I could have made that the very first line if I wanted to, or even go a little juicier with a dating book, so it made sense for the content. But then you sort of explain then what the book's about, what sets you apart. Comparative titles are important, to share. They want to know that things are selling. Obviously dating books are going to be selling, so you have to know what sets you apart, those kind of things. So they really like the kissing chapter. I think that's one of the it won an award that year, and I think that's why. Chapter, but it just started off just pretty it was kind of juicy, I guess, especially in the Christian dating world. It was let's talk about kissing, pretty in depth.
Yeah, and it's something that immediately catches someone's attention, and it's your personal story. It's your experience with that. So that's awesome. Before we move on to the section on being organized, do you have any other tips on the book proposal and, authors looking are there certain things they should look for even when looking for a publisher?
I think if you don't have a very large platform, don't be afraid to try to get published traditionally. But don't be afraid to go with a small publisher either. I mean, you might not start off with a 5-6 figure book deal. I mean, that's those are the dream, advances. But starting off with a small publisher can be a great thing, because normally they're willing to take on new authors, and you start building your connections with them. And a lot of publishing houses, my mom's an author too. I know she's in here. I see some of our writing friends, and some publishing houses get very jealous of their writers. So once you're with them, they want to keep you. And so your next book might be, even higher advanced. Just kind of getting your foot in the door is a big thing. I was just excited that people were interested, but I guess one of my tips would be what not to say when you're pitching a book. And that would be, don't tell them that there's nothing else out on the market like your book. Because when an agent or an editor hears you say that, it's not there. What you're telling them is that you haven't done any research, because or if there truly is nothing else out on the market, it means it's not selling. And so They don't want to hear that. They want to hear, okay, this is a hot topic. Look at all these books that are making money. Here's why mine is different. And that's the approach you want to take, is that this is a great idea. This is why. look at all these bestsellers, and here's why mine will be, well, here's why mine can sit on the shelf next to them. You know, that's what they want to hear.
Yeah. And that's a great tip, because I always tell authors, sometimes they say, but there's people have already written on this. I'm like, yeah, but that means people are buying it. Look on the bestseller list and see, are the books in your topic selling well? Because if they're selling well, then there's an interest. There are buyers for that topic. And like you said, if you can find your hook, find what makes you different, then that will help set you apart. Now, kind of transitioning to the next section, like, you're a mom, you're a writer, you're a business owner. How do you stay organized? You're on Blab all night and Periscope. And
lots of coffee.
I love my coffee.
Yeah. Sometimes life gets crazy. My husband's in the military, like you said. We have 3 boys, 9 and younger, and now we're homeschooling. I don't know, my planner has been a really big help. I'm online with most of my things, very digital. I like Google Cal or, any kind of online program that helps me stay organized, but I sort of am a hybrid. So I need to write stuff down too, because it helps me think. It's almost where I do my best thinking, either typing or actually writing instead of talking. Almost, I think a lot of writers kind of feel that way. So my planner, I don't know, I don't want to just jump into my planner, but that's really helped me, because I sent you the one that is for writers, and my mom sort of collaborated with me on that because she writes fiction, and it's a whole different world than what I know. And so we just wanted a place for writers to have, areas to put things. But this is my personal one. See if I'll zoom in a little bit. Logo. But I just started making a quarterly planner. I started focusing on 90-day increments instead of planning my whole year out. So I have a year at a glance where I can put stuff in there, and then focusing on, it breaks down into weekly and then daily sections, and then hourly, and then it has the time zones. It's because we're always dealing with different time zones now. So that actually has really helped me stay focused on what needs to get done is having a planner.
I actually like the thought of having quarterly, because it can be very overwhelming to think about the whole year, to think about, and things change so fast. Like when you're on the online world and you're an author and you're doing things, and then you go to a conference and maybe you decide to do something different, or Periscope launches, and then all of a sudden Blab launches, and and things change. So it's nice to have that quarterly thing. And I'm like you. I like the thought of hybrid, because we talk about hybrid authors, both traditionally and self-published. But I have my whiteboard, and when I get stuck, I go to that whiteboard and I start writing it out. Or I have my notebook and I do a brain dump and I'll just write everything out, and then I'll organize. But I have Evernote and I have my daily to-do list, and it really helps me stay on track. But what are some of the things that people are, telling you helps them the most with these planners? Like, what are the things that they are finding most helpful?
There are a lot of note sections, and so hopefully it'll zoom in so you can kind of see ones I haven't written in. So this was earlier on when I was merging calendars. So I broke it down in the top where you get your errands, and I have a master to-do list at the beginning of the week, and then I break it down every day to 6. And so if you have more than 6 things that you have to do, that's too much. You're too overworked if they all have to get done.
Yeah.
And then it breaks down to the note section here, and then the appointments. So people are using it just for notes in general on that day, or if they have a client call, they can start writing their notes out here. I think that's one of the sections that's been really helpful with the time zones. Especially, and then a lot of the pieces that were in the book that I sent you, I don't have one in front of me, but the Serious Writer Companion, the clients, so there's client pages in there, live streaming pages, project deadlines. Those were ones that I had in my original quarterly planner that I was using myself that people were asking.
Word count, pages, and there's social media things to keep it in blog, and there's so much stuff. I did a full review that will be going on my YouTube channel, but I did it on Periscope today about this, and it's really, really comprehensive, and I think you guys will love it. So there's so many things coming at us every day, like, as an author, as a writer, like marketing and trying to write more stuff, and trying to get our message out, connecting, networking. And there's so much to do, but, we've talked about several things today, and I always like to leave people with a take action tip, something they can implement immediately. What is one thing that you would recommend as a take action tip, Bethany?
So many.
I
know. Okay, so can I give you a couple?
Sure. Yeah.
Fast. Read a lot. Even if you're a nonfiction writer, start reading some fiction. Read both nonfiction and fiction books, because it'll spark your creativity, and you need to have the great words from other people to help you write. And even if you're a good writer, you want to become a great writer. And so you need to practice and be consistent with your blogging, speaking to myself here, but be consistent somewhere with your writing, even if it's in your book. And the take-home tip, if you want to get it traditionally published, start working on a proposal and the chapter breakdowns. If you have to start in one place, start with the chapter breakdowns and outline your book. It can always change, but start including the different sections that you want to have, the stories that you're going to share. Even if that doesn't go to the publisher, at least you will feel like you have a purpose. And then when you have writer's block, and if you get a contract, you have a 3-month deadline, all you have to do is go back to the chapter breakdowns and say, what did I tell them I would write? What am I supposed to write about? And then boom, you have instant content to push out your book very fast.
I love that, because I find the same thing. When you have an outline, you really don't experience writer's block as often, because you always have something, or you can, start a different chapter if you're stuck on that one chapter. But where can people find you online if they're interested in, maybe even, are you for hire? Like if someone wants to have you write their book proposal, or where they can find your planners too?
Okay, the planner is, you can find everything at BethanyJett.com. I'm moving everything over there, but that's where you can find me, all of my social media stuff. Twitter is at BetJett, same for Periscope. Bethany Jett, Jett is Jett. It's got 2 T's in it for the plane. Not like the plane, it's like double T'd.
Yeah.
And yes, and so like right now, I am ghostwriting for people, working on my own books, and then we have the Serious Writer Academy launching in the next few weeks too, where we're gonna launch how to write the proposal and how to pitch and how to build your platform. We've got 3 different courses that'll be coming out.
Awesome.
That, along with the bonus videos and things that we've got going on.
So if you guys are interested specifically in that area of writing your book proposal and pitching and all of that, definitely check Bethany out. And I love how you sometimes use the hashtag JetSetter. All right. Well, for those of you on live with us on Blab, if you would like to hop in the open seat, I've opened it up and we are available for Q&A. And you're welcome to come on. What are some of the most common questions that you get on a regular basis from authors, Bethany? Is there anything that kind of sticks out besides the book proposal thing?
Yeah, the book proposal is usually a big one. A lot of people have questions about blogging, how often, and I think consistency is better than quantity. Like blogging 5 days a week is crazy.
Yes, it is. Hey, Kelly, welcome.
Hi. My question was about blogging. I actually restarted my blog today, which is a story in itself. But how many days a week should I be blogging, you guys?
All right. Thank you so much for your question, Kelly. I'll let Bethany answer that now.
I think at least once or twice a week is good. Like I said, the consistency in building trust with your audience is the most important thing. So even if you're just starting, I would say pick 1 day a week that you're going to blog, and then let that be the day. I think even 2 times is pretty good. But I think 5 is, I have a friend who is an author, and she has a huge blog, like 1 million visitors per month. And she's blogging 5 days. And she said it's a business all in itself just to keep the blog running at that capacity. So if that's what you're going for, I would say build up to that. But if you're wanting the blog to be part of your strategy to build your readers, to write a book, I would say 1 to 2 times a week just be consistent on the days.
Yeah. Don't you find that sometimes we set these big lofty goals, whether it's exercise or writing or blogging or whatever. And then when we don't meet it, we're just like, oh, and it's easy to want to give up on it. Whereas if you set a realistic goal, like once a week, then you can keep that up and you can, do it more long term. But what I've been doing is I have my podcast now. And so I've been getting my podcast transcribed. And so my podcast episode with the transcript becomes my main blog content for the week. And if I don't have any other blogs that week, I at least have that one. And so that's another strategy. If you're periscoping or if you're doing video marketing or podcasting, you can actually have that same content repurposed on your blog with a transcript. I use rev.com, rev.com. It's $1 per minute. And it's fast, it's reliable. And that way I can have that blog content without always thinking, okay, I need to do, what else can I write on? And I'm using that same content too, so.
Yeah, Robert Stern and I had a phone call the other day, and he outlined a blogging strategy that was brilliant. So I just told him to share it, and he told me I could go ahead and explain it. So
okay.
He was saying, if you blog one time a week on a Monday. See, Robert, I wrote it down and I'm not on the right page. This is crazy. So you write your blog post on Monday initially, and then on Wednesday, perhaps, then you do your Periscope about your blog post, and you upload your saved Periscope then to your blog post. So now your post on Monday now has a video attached to it, which is great for the analytics.
And the time on the blog. Yeah.
Yes. And then later, a few days later, you get on Blab. You're still talking about the same whatever content that you had on your Monday post, and then you're adding that back to your blog. And I know there are a couple other things in there too, Robert. I know this is like the shortened version of your strategy. He had like 5 things that we were talking about. But then you've also got so you have your blog post, you have your Periscope about it, then you have your Blab replay underneath of that too. So it's constantly refreshing. Your post is updated. And then when people are going back through and looking for your content, you have an amazingly well-rounded blog post, because not only now have you given what you thought, but you've also invited other people into the conversation with you, which means your traffic is going to go up. And I thought it was a great strategy.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love the repurposing thing, it's like, or staying on the same topic, because then you can research that and really be in the flow of that topic that week. And you're sharing that same thing. I'm doing that in a little different way, where with my paid program, I have a take action workshop. So usually the content for that workshop is also some of the content for my podcast. So I'm in the flow with that one topic, and I'm able to do it both with my free content and my paid content. So, that's, another way that, just staying in the flow, repurposing, using that content. And, you can also repurpose the videos. I've been editing my Periscope videos on my iPhone, and the one I did for your planner earlier, or the Serious Writer's Companion, I just edited it, and I'm going to be posting it directly to my Facebook page and directly to YouTube. And so, you can also repurpose video on Facebook, YouTube, other platforms as well. So yeah, it's just, you just have to find your groove, find what works for you, and then be consistent. Like what you were saying, consistency is so great. Does anybody else want to jump on with us live and ask Bethany? Here's Robert Stern. Awesome.
Robert.
And Clarissa. Hey, Robert.
Shelly, I'm going to add one extra thing for you.
Awesome.
Take that Periscope and take a 15-second clip of it.
Yes.
And put it on Pinterest and pin it, or put it on Twitter, or put it on
Instagram,
and link it back to where it came from. So now you're pulling the other social, a 15-second clip of that Periscope video or Blab with a blurb saying, just to quick show you what's going on. Click here to watch the whole thing.
That's genius.
Yeah.
And it's easy.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the next step for me. I was thinking about that today, but it's so hard for me to only choose 15 seconds. I'm like, it's an hour-long blab, or it's a 10-minute, thing. And I'm like, how do I just choose 15 seconds? But yeah, I definitely want to do that.
You only get 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So, there's so many avenues to use your blog and video together. And as Bethany was saying, to add the video and then the blab and then the Periscope and you keep it going. What I teach with social media is about themes for the week. Have a theme of what you're going to talk about for that week. And everything that you post, I don't care what media it's on, should somehow relate back to that theme, which could be your blog.
Yeah, I love that. I love the themed weeks because it's so much easier to stay in the flow. And then, you're able just to keep, reaching people on all the different platforms as well. Welcome, Clarissa. Great to have you as well.
Thank you, Shelly. Thank you, Bethany. Robert, always a pleasure. I mean, I don't know. I swear, I wish I would have mentioned earlier when I started my blog.
Raina.
I have probably a question that many have asked several times over. So I'm sorry I didn't even introduce myself. I'm Clarissa. I'm a behavioral scientist, researcher, and clinician. And I am the author of a very tongue-in-cheek, very edgy relationship wellness blog called You'reJustADumbass.com. And on that blog, I share techniques that I created over the course of practice. It's cognitive behavioral techniques that I re-engineered. And I was doing it for the purpose of testing my new formula because I redesigned the traditional therapeutic model. And I was piloting book chapters on the blog. So now it's 3 years later, and now I'm at the point where I'm not sure what kind of publishing vehicle I want. And I was hoping that since you guys have expertise, you might be able to lend me some expertise. Like, I've been approached by a hybrid publishing firm, which I really like the model. It sounds great. And I've also been approached by a traditional publishing house. And because I'm a scientist and I come from this very academic world, and maybe I'm bringing in some very archaic thinking, some very archival kind of thinking where, a publishing house would be better. So I'm not sure, what avenue I should really look at. I mean, with the hybrid publishing house, Bethany, you said it all. They ask for chapters up front. Now everything is about how you're going to promote yourself, your social presence, your social proof, all this stuff. So, me coming from a very academic and administrative background to this, I'm still not sure of what's the best way to go about it.
Okay, do you have any advice for her, Bethany?
Yeah, I have a lot of things in my mind. Okay, so she's gone.
I just went ahead and had her exit out so that you could answer her question here.
Yes. Okay, so being approached by a traditional Robert, do you have something? Being approached by
I'm just gonna go because my daughter's calling me.
All right, thanks for hopping on.
Bethany, email me.
Yes. To have a traditional publisher contact you for a book is a really big deal. So you just need to decide which avenue you want to go down. So the pros and cons, I mean, Shelley, you can attest to this too. There's pros and cons to self and there's pros and cons to traditional. You want to make money with your book and you want to get it out there. So you want to look at, do you want it to, a traditional publisher will get it into the bookstores and they have a marketing team that's going to help with some of the marketing, like getting you on the radio, they have some different connections that it can be hard to do yourself. I was very grateful for that. Plus they usually pay you up front. But sometimes in some situations, self-publishing is the best thing to do if you already have an established audience of people who are ready to buy your book right now that you could make money off of it because you're going to retain more of your royalties that way and recoup. So I've not self-published yet. It is in my future, but you could always see what a traditional publisher would offer you in terms of an advance, and then they're paying you to do the book, plus they can get on the bookshelves. And Shelley, I know you have advice then on the self-publishing aspect of that, on that side.
Yeah. So I've only self-published and I haven't even tried to get a traditional contract because I haven't needed to, because, I've been able to have I've been able to accomplish the goals that I needed to accomplish with, and I call it independent publishing because I formed my own publishing company. And I just recently did a training on this if you're interested on so I think it's on YouTube. But anyways, with self-publishing, you retain a lot more control too. So what I've had certain authors tell me is that they can't put their book on sale, or they can't do certain giveaways, or they can't enter into certain group promotions, or they can't, because they're limited with what they can do, or it's difficult to change their keywords or their categories, or, there's less control. But, it's like what Bethany said, you have to really look at all your different options. And either way, you're still going to be the main person responsible for marketing it. Right, Bethany? Is that what you found?
Yeah, you are. Mm-hmm. The traditional publisher is going to give you a lot of oomph, on that end. They're going to put you, what they do is they send you a catalog that goes out to all the main bookstores. So you get in Barnes & Noble, you get into, depending on what avenue, you get into some major stores, and so you're on shelves, which is it's an amazing thing. I mean, a lot of sales come that way, and then it goes on their websites too, and then they sort of control, like you said, when a book goes on sale, the publisher decides that based on the numbers. But you still have to do marketing too. They want to know in that platform that you have enough reach or impact with people that they're going to want to buy your books. That's sort of your when you're pitching to them, you're saying I can sell X number of books because I've written for these different places. So, but I think, like, going back to the word hybrid, I mean, being a hybrid author is a great strategy to have some traditional publishers behind you, and then just know when is the right time to do something self. Not everything needs to be traditionally, but some things that are definitely going to be self. It's not meant for mass, it's not going to become a bestseller with the mass market, but it could be something I can give to the people who need it, and I can do it quickly that way.
Yeah, and if you are wanting to get your book in bookstores and you want to independently publish, definitely look into Ingram Spark, because they're able to get your book into the same catalog that traditional publishers use. It's the Ingram catalog, and that's the way you're able to get into bookstores. And yet, I found that there doesn't tend to be a huge return on investment, for a smaller unknown author getting into bookstores. Even if you get into bookstores, you still have to have a hook, and you still have to have a way to sell that book. And so that's still, like you were saying with the book proposal, starting at the very beginning, what's going to differentiate your book and what's going to draw people in. And it starts with the book proposal and from, the outline if you're, self-publishing or independent publishing. But there's so many options, and there's so much flexibility, and there's so many things that you can do. But what I have found, and I know a lot of traditionally published authors have told me this, is that the contracts are less and less now than they used to be. Would you say that that's true too, Bethany?
I think it ebbs and flows. I pay attention to a lot of the agent blogs, and they go back and forth where, and I published in the Christian market, CBA. So if you ever hear CBA, it means Christian Booksellers Association. So those are the ones that I follow mostly. And, they're saying that Christian fiction is sort of down right now. And, it will go back up. Yeah. Self-publishing is, going to be big. It just kind of depends. And what you want to think of too is how much money are you going to be putting out for your book if you're going to self-publish versus how much you think you're going to make on it as well. I never would have sold the amount of books myself as a new author, but that I was able to sell because I had the traditional publisher behind me. There's just pros and cons to both. So you really just got to look at your situation and decide, do I want to try to get paid for it, or do I want to try to do this myself and make money on the back end?
Yeah. And the most inexpensive way to get started is Kindle publishing. So, just, getting started there and not having a ton of upfront costs and being able to get started with that. But we do have a question. The question is, how do you pitch the book after it's written? I have written 20 kids' books and don't know where to sell.
Okay, so that made me think libraries are always looking for books because they need to have new nonfiction books out for kids to do biographies and things on. Mm-hmm. And from what I understand, they're always, and they pay. And so I will try to find out where those, I have the information somewhere. I'll try to get on my blog. But when you said children's, that made me think of the library books because they need those written, and it's a good way to get your foot in the door. Okay, so for children's, I would suggest, so you've written some children's books. I would say start writing for some children's magazines now while you're working on your pitch letter to meet a publisher. And if you can start getting some publication credits, and you may already have them, for children's, that would be great. And then you just need to look for one of my best friends is a best-selling children's author, and she said that she still goes into Barnes and Noble or to a bookstore, and she looks for kids' books, and she writes down her competition. She'll figure out who the publisher is, and she'll see what information she can get off the back of the book. And you can do that too. So she kind of does her research, and then you can go to their websites, and then usually they have submission guidelines so that you can send them a query letter and your proposal. Usually you want to send a query letter with your book.
Yeah, and Jean Wise is saying in the comments, Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. So I'm not familiar with that organization, but that's another organization to check out. And I know Katie Davis, she has a podcast, Brain Burps, and katiedavis.com. She's a best-selling children's book author, so that's who I always refer people to for marketing children's books, because that's not my expertise either. I do have one children's ebook, but that's not my main focus. But yeah, I think that's a great idea with libraries too, or situations like that, to pitch to those areas as well. Trying to say,
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Magazines are great. If you want your words to be read, having a book is a great thing, and we all want to have our book published, and it's a great feeling whether you self-publish or traditional, but your reach to get your words to readers goes so much further with a magazine than it almost 90% of the time will with a book. And so I suggest that everybody start finding people different magazine or online communities that are well established, and start guest posting and writing articles for them. It builds your publication credits, which builds your platform, but also it gets your story out, and it gets out what you're trying to say if you're writing nonfiction, and fiction's a much different kind of thing. So, Jeannie, I'm so glad you put the SCBWI in there, too. One tip she told me for children's, if you're going traditional, is unless you're an amazing illustrator, it's often better to just send in the content for the book, because publishers usually have their own illustrators, and you don't want them to take the illustration and then not take your work, which has happened.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, she teaches a class writing children. I remember she said that. So just worry about your content. Don't worry about the illustrations, because the publisher can handle that. And they usually have people that they work with already.
All right.
But you can make suggestions on the side of where how you see the story going. Mm-hmm. They don't take them. She's got so many books out there. She's never taken my ideas, but they take her words, and that's the most important thing. So
yeah,
don't stress about those.
Yeah, and Emily says, I don't write for the money, just for the love.
Yeah, and magazines are a great way to get that out to people. And sometimes they pay. A lot of times you do it for free for the publication credit, but sometimes Chicken Soup for the Soul, they pay $200 if your story gets picked. Why not make some money? For your writing.
Awesome. Well, let's say somebody does want to take that advice and do a magazine article or start writing. Sometimes it feels overwhelming even just to pitch to them. Do you have any tips on how to, get your stuff accepted at magazines or guest blog posts?
Yes. So for a magazine, or either online magazines, print magazines, or even online groups that are well established, you can always ask if they're looking for contributors, but sometimes the submission guidelines will not be readily available on a website. Let's say you want to write for Glamour magazine. They may not have writer submissions on their front page. So sometimes you can Google the magazine and then submission guidelines, and it'll pull from the back end those keywords, and you can find it. But you just want to make sure that you're following absolutely everything to the letter when you're trying to submit for anybody. I was the editor with Flickety magazine for the web for a while, and people get turned down just because they're not following simple directions.
Wow,
there's so many coming in. So that's actually the number one. It's almost a no-brainer, but you'd be surprised how many people don't do that. And then you want your query letter to be one page. You want to have your information on there. You want to start off, again, it's always with your hook. You want to explain why your story is a good fit for them. You can, you always have to do research. You can say, Christmas, you'd want to pitch well in advance for Christmas, but if you have a great Christmas story, that you want to pitch. You could say, I know that you've done stories like this and this in the past. That's why my article entitled, blah, 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 would be a great fit for your readers. And then the next paragraph, this is who I am. This is why I'd be a great writer for you. You can give a little blurb of the story in there if you want to. And then my friend who teaches this at the conferences too, her name is Michelle Medlock Adams. She's got amazing children's books out. They are out now for Halloween and Thanksgiving for children. And she says that the secret sauce is then to ask them to, even if the story isn't right for you right now, please add me to your pool of writers. And so what you're asking them to do is, even if they don't take your submission, to include your email into the email that goes out to their people. So when they need stories, you're going to be on their, call out list. With Chicken Soup, when they need stuff, you can get it on their website. But if you're in their email list, they send it to you saying, we need these contributions. And you want to be on those lists with these people. So that's really, she says she's gotten a lot of work that way. Maybe they don't take the story now, but 2 years, down the road, she's still in their email pool and she's getting work from them.
I love that. I think that's a great tip, because I just recently submitted something and they said, we're so full. We don't, it's not that we are rejecting your submission, but we just don't have any room right now, email us back. And I could have said, do you have a list that you send out? And I could still do that, reply back to them. So I think that's great advice. And somebody asked, does guest posting work? It most certainly does, especially when you do it strategic, right, Bethany?
Absolutely. When my book was coming out, I didn't have very many publication credits at all. I was pretty much brand new to this, and I have this book deal, and I'm like in over my head. That's how you feel. So I went online and I was like, okay, who's talking about teen dating? Because that's sometimes who you're marketing, there's so much information. Yeah. Who you're marketing is not always your target reader. Yeah. So my target reader was late high school, early college aged girls. But my marketing was to the parents, because they're the ones who are going to buy the book. There you go. And so I go online and find out who's already talking to teen parents about teen dating. And so I found an amazing lady who had several books out. She had built this huge contributor website, and I just sent her an email because I couldn't find anything on there about submission guidelines. And I said, this is my story. Same thing. Your hook, I have this book coming out. Whatever it is that you can say that makes you sound like you know what you're talking about, put that in there. This is what I write. Are you accepting guest contributions? That was it. And it ended up turning into a double monthly featured column. It was basically 2 posts a month for her, but I leveraged that in my, my platform for my proposals, a double monthly featured columnist for, Choose Now Ministries. And that's what it was. And I thought, okay, just from one simple message to her saying, I'm just looking for guest posting opportunities. Here's my website. Make sure your website looks good enough for them to say yes to you. And that was that. And that became a really great publication credit for me. And then I met so many people through that. And so it's just simple research and then just asking, lots of asking.
Yeah, there's a lot of gold nuggets in what you just said, researching your target market. And I recently was talking to someone similar to your target market. Their target market was teens, but it was actually the parents, because they're going to buy it for the teens. And, know what your target market is. Find a blog or find a website that is popular in your area. Look and see if they've had guests before. And then, just ask, and I love how you said, are you accepting contributors? And then you used that as part of your proposal, right? Or as part of what your platform is, you're a contributing author to this thing. And so if you're looking to get proposals, that's another really great tip, become a contributing writer to some, a site or two, so that you can add that into your bio. So I think there's so many great tips there. Love that.
Yeah. Everything. I mean, when we left the conference, we had I signed my contract with my agent, and now we're working on, bulking up the proposal and the marketing section. And I should have said this earlier, the marketing section of your proposal is crucial for a traditional publisher, because they are counting on you selling, X number of books yourself. They know that they can do this many. They want to know how many you can do. And you don't actually have to put a number, but you have to put your reach. And so the first 3 months, I teach a class called 0 to Book Deal in 3 months, because that's what happened. But I talk about how you just go to work really fast and you get really super focused every day. And that's what you do. You find people to contribute for, and you meet people who are looking for writers. There's people looking for writers everywhere, and you start submitting. Well, as soon as you get a handful of people saying yes, write the articles, and then that is a legitimate something to add to your marketing section. And it's actually what turned the publisher that said I wasn't ready. He said my platform was too small, and it was. But when I just sent him a thank you note saying thanks for meeting with me. I signed with McGregor, and he said, send me the proposal. I was like, okay. And he said that the marketing section had been built up enough in those 3 months that's why they said yes. They took it to committee and they bought the book.
Yeah.
So you can do it. You just it's work.
Yeah, and that's that's
fun.
That's so encouraging though, because that's another tip. Even if you get rejected, send a thank you note. And if you've increased your platform since that time, just slip that in there, but yeah, I mean, that is such a great tip for the marketing section of your proposal. I love that. And you guys, if you're looking for tips, do you have a way they can sign up for your class on 0 to 3 months in book propose?
I missed some of that. I'm sorry. It was like
you were talking about your class 0 to or book proposal or book contract in 0 to 3 months. Is there a place for them to sign up for that?
Yes. So that's actually, I'm doing a free webinar. I'm actually taking the class that I teach at conferences called 0 to Book Deal in 3 months. And I'm calling it 3 Secrets to Landing a Book Deal on Your First Try. And that's a free webinar that I'm doing in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I haven't locked down my date yet. But if you want to make sure you get an email saying, okay, the webinar is going to be on this date, go to seriouswriter.com. And there's a little, thing in the sidebar that says, I want to know when Serious Writer Academy opens. That's the one. So you can just leave your, email, name an email, and then I will send you out an email saying 3 secrets to landing a book deal. That webinar will be there, and I'll be sharing everything that I share in my classes that I teach at writers conferences. And I'll be at 2 writers conferences next year too as a facilitator. So very, very excited.
That's awesome. And I highly recommend that you guys check out BethanyJett.com, JETT.com. Go to liveinyourplanner.com. Is that right?
Yes, it'll take you to the store.
Yeah, that's for her planners. And then follow her on social media. If you're interested in writing book proposals, getting contracts, she's definitely a person to follow and get advice from. You can already tell she's given lots of great nuggets here on this interview. If there's anyone else that wants to jump on before we head off, we have a few more minutes, but do you have any kind of final tips or advice for authors? We've been talking about so much writing, book proposals, marketing, blogging, all this stuff. And I don't know, do you have any other advice or just something to kind of wrap it up for us tonight?
Yes, I did want to answer Anna. I'm going to be at Florida Christian Writers Conference in Florida in February next year, and then I also got invited to speak at the Blue Ridge Mountain Christian Writers Conference it's at the end of May in North Carolina. Those are the 2 places that I'll be next year. And final tips, I can't stress it enough that if you want to be traditionally published, save the money, even if you only go for 1 day. Find out the day that that you can pitch an agent and editor. Go to a writers conference. I think dreams come true there. The networking and opportunities that have happened, not only from the book the first year, but then I've gone back to the same conference every year and then extended out. And every time that I come back, I call my mom, who I said she's a novelist. She's in here, Johnny Alexander. I will call her and say, you won't believe what happened. I met so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so, and we're collaborating. We're going to do this. We're going to write this proposal together. And so we have all these book ideas now to pitch. And not only do the people that you meet there have their own network, but then you get introduced to their network. So it's invaluable.
Yeah.
Being able to go.
Which conference have you gone to? Do you mind sharing?
Yeah. Florida Christian Writers Conference is where I got my start.
Okay.
I live in Florida. That's the one I started at. And I've gone every year, and now I'm teaching, so it's fun. And I've been to Blue Ridge, and then also got invited to come back and speak this year. So those are the 2 that I've been at, but there are a lot of amazing conferences out there. You can Google conferences, but go. Some agents and publishers, I won't say publishers, but I know some agents are only looking for people at conferences. It's kind of how they're sort of weeding out their their pool of people that they're selecting from. Not that they don't take email submissions, but if you're serious about it, you will not, even if you don't get a book deal right away, that's the, the dream, of course, but the connections and the information that you will learn is worth more than anything. I can't.
Yeah. And Clarissa just said, wow, thanks for inspiring me, Bethany. And you've definitely inspired me as well. And I think there's tons of great tips. I could go back and just write out some templates for, pitching magazines and different things. So this has been jam-packed. Definitely check out Bethany at her website, BethanyJett.com, Serious Writers Academy. Check out her planners. She's definitely up and coming. You have lots of stuff going on. I know we're going to see a lot from you this next year, I'm sure. So thank you so much for having us or being here, Bethany. And I'm excited. I'm going to be on P-Crawl with you tonight too. So if you guys want to join us, that will be on Blab in just half hour?
Yeah, it'll be on Periscope, actually.
Yeah. So definitely check us out on that here in just a little bit. And thank you so much, Bethany. And thank you guys for joining us live. Thanks those that are watching on the replay or on YouTube or wherever you found us. I know that you got a lot from this, and I hope that you connect with Bethany for more stuff later.
Well, thank you for having me. It's so fun to talk about this stuff, and what great people in the chat too. It was just, I saw it constantly just moving, and I love that. Love all the engagement. So thank you for having me.
Yes, you're welcome. All right. Thank you.